You're on point. Yes, you're on jet activity. On the tag box. Do the two tag box. Whatever you do, don't look down. They already have looking at the top. It's like the...
Alright, let's do this. What would happen to a plant in a shoe in a junkyard? Picture it. It's a plant in a shoe that has just fallen into a junkyard. The plant would probably just waste away, wouldn't it? Well, now imagine this junkyard being inhabited by artificially intelligent scooper machines and living computer mice. Then what happens? Well, not much with the mice. At best, they could just crawl all over the plant, if even that. But the giant garbage machines, on the other hand, could easily scoop up the poor vegetable and throw it into the garbage incinerator, blender, space chute, whatever the junkyard uses to destroy the garbage. So to recap, what happens to a plant in a shoe in a junkyard is that at best, it would slowly wilt away, and at worst, and sadly more likely, be easily destroyed. Just like that. Yeah, that's a pretty morbid thought to hold on to, isn't it? Well, too bad, cause keep that in mind. I'm not done with it yet. On June 27th, 2008, WALL-E Pixar acclaim money success Oscars phenomenon. You already know this. This is WALL-E we're talking about. Oh yeah, content warning or whatever. Hi, I'm Barry McGuckin, and welcome to the slaughterhouse of Mr. Snot-Makey Booger's Hot Takey Burgers. Here you will witness the sanitary birth of our precious cow patties, the wondrous treat we, for decades, have been serving you to fill your happy, healthy bellies.
Holy cow!
Ooh, that one's gonna be real tasty. WALL-E seems to be quite a beloved film, doesn't it? No matter where I go, no matter who I talk to, it seems that everybody can agree that WALL-E is pretty damn good.
Well, I was going to say quickly, just out of curiosity, from left to right, if you can, just name what you believe to be the best Pixar movie.
Mine's WALL-E. It's one of my favorite films.
I think it's fair to say that WALL-E is proclaimed by most to be one of the greatest films of all time.
I would say WALL-E as well. Ratatouille might be a second for me.
One of the most disappointing things that I've come to know is how little WALL-E gets talked about these days. It has been well over a decade since its release and remains one of the greatest masterpieces Pixar has ever produced.
WALL-E for me.
WALL-E's the best, but I like Ratatouille the most.
One film tends to be a fan favorite, even getting a spot in the Criterion Collection. That film, of course, being WALL-E. Now, is WALL-E Pixar's best movie? That's up for debate. But I think WALL-E is Pixar's most impressive movie.
But I've never seen WALL-E, so I couldn't...
Oh my god, can we watch that? I have an excuse to watch WALL-E again.
I haven't been remotely interested in Pixar movies since WALL-E.
Always grab them when
good. No, I've heard lots of good things about WALL-E.
Well, now you're gonna hear some bad things about it.
WALL-E's amazing. I fucking love WALL-E.
I'm gonna spare you the sappy, I used to love WALL-E too and I feel bad for doing this crap. I'm a strong believer in objectivity in art, and unfortunately, having watched the film with the analytical lens of an aspiring writer a bunch of times, I have discovered that the film has a shocking amount of issues. And sadly, a couple of them are quite big. Hence, my hot take that WALL-E is not a masterpiece, and is, in fact, a sacred cow. Because if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that no matter how small the issue, or how beloved the story is, plot holes are bad!
Why does it matter? WALL-E is a kid's movie.
Oh, so you think children don't... No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The director says the H word in the film's official commentary, see?
I wanted the sense of the axiom to have this perpetual vacation to it. You're sort of stuck in vacation hell.
But you fuck one goat.
This video may get tangenty here and there, especially when I'll explain why I take issue with the issues I take issue with. But I can assure you, no tangents will be longer nor shorter than I feel necessary. You know what I'm saying? Spoilers! This video is meant for those who've already seen the film. If you haven't, you'll need to. Yes, I still actually recommend WALL-E. I can assure you, I'm not critiquing this movie in bad faith. Copyright disclaimer or whatever, if you claim this video, yo mama's so fat she needed to buy 9 plane tickets to be allowed on board. Now, allow me to gently take you through this difficult journey of hot takiness. There's no fucking way that would be the only spork Wally would find in 700 years. This video is not for the faint of heart. One of the issues with this film is that it is littered with nitpicks. Now, nitpick is one of those stupid ass words that everybody uses, but many can't agree on its exact definition. Its official definition is this, but I ain't using that. My definition of nitpick, the definition that will apply through the entirety of this video, is an issue with the story that is small but legitimate.
Nitpick shit fit. Why bitch about things so small and insignificant?
Wally buries himself right under the center of the rocket, but when he pops back out, he bumps his head under one of the thrusters to the side. Because, Stevie, a nitpick is like a nit, see? Because even just one of those parasites in your head requires a trip to the shower, which further increases the chance of dropping the soap. Because, yeah, nitpicks, even they can really find a storyteller in the Alps.
What the fuck are you talking?
Now granted, if a film only has a couple nitpicks, no huge deal. Though it still would be nice if his sword didn't fall out of his sheath. Likewise, some nitpicks are so small they're practically inconsequential. Like how strange it is for Eva to not scan Wally's roach friend, despite scanning pretty much everything else at that moment. But fear not, for those that want Wally to be bad. For some reason. The movie has a couple of major problems as well. Like, why is there tilting gravity in a space cruiser?
The docking scene shows the axiom turning on and off gravity, clearly establishing its ability to alter gravity at will. The criticism you just said is fucking stupid.
Let me rephrase it.
Yes, the film establishes that the axiom is capable of controlling gravity. So yes, the ship would be capable of having shifting gravity throughout. But why? Why would you want to design the ship like that? What, do the people on the ship celebrate special gravity holidays or something? I doubt it, because if they did, everything inside the axiom would be built to be sustainable within a tilting ship, which is clearly not the case. But honestly, I don't think the film is even saying that the gravitational systems are being altered because of this shot. A shot that shows a cruise ship tilting in space. And I definitely wouldn't be calling this a small issue. This moment has a huge effect on all of the payoffs of this film. It's the reason why Wally gets crushed, why John and Mary had kids, why Captain got motivated to walk, and most importantly, it's what sets up the emotional resolution at the end of the film. The plot, in the way it was built, needed something nonsensical to happen in order to function.
The ship was turned by Otto, the bot shaped like a steering wheel.
Yes?
The film establishes that the ship can control gravity.
Uh-huh.
So there. Otto is programmed to tilt the ship's gravity.
I'm saying, why is the ship built like that? I know Otto can affect the ship, especially since he has full override control, but why would whoever built the axiom build it in a way where it can have tilting gravity throughout the entirety of the ship? A cruise ship that's not built for tilting gravity. Wouldn't it be harder to program a ship to have tilting gravity rather than just to program a simple gravitational pull to the floor?
Come on. The information I just given you should be explainable enough, especially for a cartoony movie like Wally.
Ooh. Okay. Tangent time. Yes, Wally is not 100% realistic, given that the robots have feelings, which is not possible in the real world, clearly. And you know what? I would absolutely accept the explanation Stevie said to me if this film was a cartoony one. But the thing is, I'm not sure that that is the case. At least not 100%. When it comes to realism and cartooniness, I believe Wally is smack dab in between, especially with scenes like this. See, the physics right here was pretty cartoonish. But the physics right there were pretty realistic. And when it comes to movies right smack dab in the middle, it can be hard to judge it accurately, because what I seek in the quality of stories is consistency, not realism. Though there is the issue of external consistency, where we, the audience, assume the story still has some connections to the real world, like humans requiring oxygen to breathe. I can definitely buy the robots having feelings, but this, I think this is a stretch. And you know what else I think is a stretch? How lenient is that plant? The Hello Dolly scenes Wally watches are the Sunday clothes dance and the Only Takes a Moment. The Sunday clothes dance is around the 30-minute mark of the actual Hello Dolly movie, and the Only Takes a Moment scene is a few minutes past the 2-hour mark. Wally, without fast-forwarding or even touching the VHS, oh God, witnesses the two scenes in a matter of minutes. Go watch Hello Dolly, it's a great movie. It's on Disney+. Now, when I ask for answers of a particular plot hole, I'm not asking for every answer to be overt, especially with nitpicks. Part of the appeal of Wally is its simplistic, dialogue-light storytelling, and it would be ruined if some dickhead came out of nowhere and is all like,
"Well, you see, Wally, the reason it took you 700 years to find a single spork is because the kingdom of the spork people have casted a magical spell where every human touching one turns into blueberry spaghetti, so society waged war on sporks and blah 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 blah."
Hell no. Sometimes, just a simple Easter egg will be enough to fill in the gaps, which Wally is perfectly capable of doing. You won't be hearing me bitch about the Axiom's infinite resources.
Reactor core temperature.
Unchanged.
Passenger count.
Unchanged.
Regenerative food buffet.
Unchanged.
Now, yes, explanatory Easter eggs may risk flying over the heads of even the most analytical of critics.
You just walk to the store and some random Imperial guy is like, "You walked funny, go to prison." It's like, oh.
It's like, how can we better justify that but maintain the point that they're coming down so hard that people are now getting put in prison for literally doing nothing at all? What is being complained about here? It's that our main character happened to walk past the wrong person at the wrong time.
It's like every single trooper was assigned to automatically arrest anybody they come across for whatever reason. But if the Easter egg or visual hint is eventually caught by the particular critic that takes her time to analyze that specific story, then said story should be fine. I bring all that up because there are some situations in WALL-E that may seem like major issues, but actually have little details to explain why it is what it is. Like, why the hell is Eve's rocket emitting red dots? Well, the film itself doesn't explicitly state their in-plot purpose, but according to the director's commentary,
it's actually a spaceship triangulating for a flat space to land on.
And there is enough details in the film to substantiate that. So, yeah. Incredible coincidence for the main center dot to pop up right next to one of the only active beings in the area. Let's discuss coincidences. For those of you who don't know, a coincidence is, well, an event that normally would have a low luck chance of happening, but somehow happens anyway. When it comes to storytelling, they can sometimes be referred to as a convenience and/or a contrivance, I think. Now, coincidences don't actually ruin the story so long as A, they still make sense within the context of the story, B, there's not a shit ton of them, C, they are still somewhat plausible, and D, the characters in said story are aware of the absurdity of said coincidence if C were to be broken.
I sit down and this man engages me in conversation. He's a complete stranger, but he turns out to be Jane's father. Of course, I didn't know it at the time. I mean, he was just some guy in a bar.
Jane's dad.
Think of the odds. Me going and sitting down that night in that bar next to that man.
WALL-E has a few conveniences or contrivances or whatever. Not many of them, but where they lack in numbers, they make up for in absurdity. Cause my god, some of them don't even make any logistical sense. WALL-E crawls up the garbage chute to the captain's quarters. Then, the next set of shots reveal Mo, the cleaning bot, to be heading towards the same chute, which is not at all far from him.
Spotlight 20 feet.
Now, WALL-E and Eve are in the captain's quarters for quite some time, giving the captain the plant, finding out Otto is evil, etc. WALL-E and Eve are thrown into the trash chute, they get trapped in the Axiom's garbage chamber, they get stuck in the airlock, and they need to escape it before the door closes. Then, Mo conveniently falls down the chute in time to stop the inner airlock door from closing, forcing the WALL-Es to close the outer doors and save WALL-E and Eve. The time gap between Mo heading towards the chute and falling into the garbage chamber is 6 minutes and 20 seconds. You're telling me Mo took 6 minutes and 20 seconds to get from here to here. He should have already been in the garbage chamber way before WALL-E and Eve even showed up. Did it take him 6 minutes to use gravity?
Yo, y'all actually still believe in gravity?
Not all the coincidences in WALL-E I take issue with. I'm fine with Mary happening to see WALL-E and Eve pass by the window she's looking out of, mostly because it's not actually that absurd the more you think about it. WALL-E and Eve are space dancing beside numerous areas of the Axiom, allowing them to be visible to a shit ton of windows. And Mary was likely staring out of her window for quite some time, having been freed by social media earlier that day. So yeah. The coincidence that blows my mind is Mary bumping into John, the only other human WALL-E the robot happening to fly by at that moment has spoken to. All of that happens at the same time at this location in a ship the size of a city. Well, gotta make that Bible reference, I suppose. But even that doesn't compare to the coincidence I take the biggest issue with. The situation on Earth with WALL-E, Eve, and the plant. So WALL-E has been alone on a dead planet Earth for nearly 7 centuries. One day, he discovers a plant for the first time in nearly 7 centuries. On the same day, a rocket drops off Eve, a robot WALL-E discovers for the first time in nearly 7 centuries. Do you realize how insanely coincidental that is?
In the CinemaSins video on WALL-E, he says it's lucky that WALL-E finds proof that plants can grow on Earth just minutes before Eve shows up, a robot built to detect and report such things.
Stop.
Yeah, they send those out regularly.
That is true, and it's confirmed by these visuals and this line.
No probes ever come back positive before.
Eves are sent regularly to planet Earth. That's not the issue. The issue is, first Eve on Earth or not, Eva Eve is clearly the first Eve WALL-E himself has ever seen, as seen through his mannerisms. On the same day, he finds the first plant ever found in that area, in the span of 700 years.
The situation with Eve and the plant is the inciting incident. Inciting incidents tend to be coincidental.
Inciting incidents usually are the exception against the criticism, damn, what are the odds? Could an inciting incident make any coincidence excusable? Well, this is the reason why I was hesitant to start my WALL-E hot take with this point. Because truth be told, I don't know! But me personally, I'd argue that depends on the coincidence itself. Just hear me out, please. I typically don't fuss over inciting incidents like, say, our protagonist in the right place at the right time trope, or its evil equivalent, wrong place, wrong time. Not only because it's what begins the plot and is normally the only crazy coincidence in said plot, a good plot anyway, but because oftentimes the trope isn't that crazy of a coincidence as it may seem. Yes, the chances of our protagonist being in the right place at the right time are quite low, but keep in mind, narratives specifically choose who the protagonists are, and thus the universe can feel more coincidental than it really is. In reality, while the chances of the inciting incident affecting our protagonist are very low, the trope itself usually consists of events that could happen to anyone, and the chances of it affecting someone can sometimes be relatively high. WALL-E's inciting incident, on the other hand, let's do the math. There are 365 days in a year. Yes, that would mean there are 255,500 days in 700 years. In 1 out of 255,500 days, WALL-E finds his first ever super important plant. In 1 out of 255,500 days, WALL-E meets Eva. Nothing in the plot implies the Axiom knew of the plant being found by a WALL-E unit. In fact, the earlier mentioned line implies that the Eves are sent to Earth by a mere schedule, assuming it's not random, meaning both the plant and Eva could have shown up at any one of those 255,500 days, and they just so happened to show up on the same exact day. Now, could that logistically happen? Sure, with a chance of 1 out of 65,280,250,000. Yeah, I take quite the issue with the insane coincidence that is WALL-E's inciting incident. But since it is an inciting incident, as well as the fact that the film itself is half cartoonish, I'm not confident enough to label this coincidence as a major objective flaw. Pussy! If you want to label WALL-E's inciting incident as not a problem, very well, but I hope I at least got your storytelling critical cogs turning about it, because WALL-E meeting Eve on the same exact day he finds her precious MacGuffin is insane. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So isn't it implied that WALL-E's never seen one before?
Oh?
A girl or a plant?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the point?
Oh, just, Jay, it sounded like you had something to say there.
I forgot what it was.
Oh, hey, I see the ship's log is showing that today is our 700th anniversary of our 5-year cruise. Well,
what a coincidence.
This video is fucking garbage. You going on about how the movie is not a masterpiece, only to provide nothing but nitpicks or points you're not even sure about. You don't have the confidence to justify your hot take against WALL-E.
No, I do. I absolutely do. Let's just say I've been saving the worst for last. So Eve and WALL-E just escaped the repair ward, and Eve is mad at him for seemingly taking and losing a plant, and turning them into fugitives. They head to the escape pods, and Eve attempts to send WALL-E back home. But then, Police Chief Gopher enters the chamber, and what a twist! He took the plant, and he is trying to dispose of it with the escape pod. On the surface, this moment seems fine, but sadly that is not the case. This scene is, in fact, the worst scene in the entire movie. First off, incredibly lucky Gopher entered the pod that our heroes were using out of the 30 pods on this part of the Axiom. But, more importantly, if Gopher wanted to dispose of the plant, why not just throw it in the trash chute? Any counters? Anyone? Yes, you in the back.
It is the least suspicious way to dispose of the plant.
Bullshit. Gopher would surely have access to any secret room, put the plant into a box, package, or bag-like object, and throw it away in said object. But he wouldn't even need to do that, because the Axiom would have a plethora of non-public, secretive garbage chutes, including the one below the captain's quarters. An escape pod, on the other hand, is a terrible way to dispose of the plant in secret. The Axiom has windows. Windows humans can look out of. What have I got? Obviously, most of them won't do that, but we're talking statistics here. A human could see an escape pod explode, tell all the others, and throw everyone into a panic. And if not the humans, the robots with feelings would be suspicious of a missing escape pod.
Then the bad guys don't care about being caught.
Yes?
The bad guys don't care.
But they do. Otto practically panics seeing the captain with the plant. It's very clear that Otto would rather just dispose the plant in secret than tell Captain about it. The only in-universe reason Otto alerts the captain of the plant protocol in the first place is because the deck system has a green button that'll keep flashing until someone presses it, which can only be done by the captain himself because of that thumbprint scanner right there. Yeah, it's a good thing that scene had that one shot with that one visual. Otherwise, I would have had a fit about this moment too. Yes, you in the corner.
The trash chutes could have scanners that alert the captain of what's being thrown in them.
Yeah, well, unfortunately there is nothing that implies such. No flashing lights, no beeping sounds, nothing.
Yeah, but the scanners could be not using flashing lights or beeping sounds.
I'm saying there is nothing that indicates for there to be such scanners, which means those scanners would be something you're making up completely in your head. And unfortunately, making stuff up in your head to explain plot holes is not a good way to defend a story, because you could literally do that with any story. And hell, you could argue that Tommy Wiseau's Room takes place in an alien simulation with a bunch of heavily drugged test subjects.
I know nothing.
Not a thing.
Why not? It would explain everyone's bizarre behavior and the super fake looking scenery. And no, there are no little Easter eggs or visuals that discourage Gopher from using a trash chute. Quite the opposite, in fact.
Oh come on, he did that in that scene out of desperation. A last resort.
But why? Because the only consequence Gopher suffered for doing that is simply it not working, because Wally happened to be nearing the top of the chute at that moment. As far as I know, he's just using the chute as a last resort for no discernible reason. Yes, you, the one that looks like Steve Harvey.
You told Uncle Sam to suck your balls.
And do what exactly?
Excuse me?
In your review of America, you gave the US a 5 out of 10 and told Uncle Sam to suck your balls.
That was simply an edgy joke, wise guy. I have nothing against the actual Uncle Sam, and a 5 out of 10 country is still better than most of the shitholes on this stupid-ass planet. I'm a reptile, I don't even have... Fuck off with your ab hominems. Does anybody have any counters to the diatribe I just spilled? Yes, you, the one that looks like Steve Harvey.
Labeling most countries a 5 or lower is pretty damn pessimistic.
Wally! Shipped it! Counters against plants and trash chutes. Yes, you. The one that looks like the rest of your classmates.
The robots working in the junkyard could see the plant.
And do what exactly? Because at best, they would be able to do nothing about it, and at worst, they themselves would end up destroying it. After all, it is a plant within a shoe, within a junkyard. Yeah, see, full circle. Remember what I said would happen to that plant? Yup. The robot mice, for the very little screen time they have, seem to come across as simply that. Mice are robots. Robots that only seem to crawl on stuff. We don't even know what their purpose is, but I doubt it's to preserve anything. Now, the Wallays, on the other hand, could be a bigger threat to Gopher's plant-destroying plan. They are empathetic and are perfectly capable of holding production just to preserve the well-being of others. However, the Wallays are huge, and the plant is tiny. They're not even observant enough to notice tiny things that move, so I figure that goes double for the things that don't. They didn't check the cubes at the airlock. But even if they did notice the plant, I don't think they would even know what it is. They might even consider it some sort of scary, alien-looking virus object that needs to get off the ship immediately. So if anything, there's a possible, though unlikely, scenario where they destroy the plant on purpose. Any more counters? Anyone? Yeah, I thought so. I'd say this moment alone would drive Wally down from a 10 to an 8. Of course, it's not alone, but the reason why I consider this moment to be so destructive is because of how much it affects the story. WALL-E's story would not work if it wasn't for Gopher's stupidity. WALL-E's plot relies on WALL-E and Eve to be insanely lucky. On multiple accounts, I argue, but definitely so here. So unfortunately, this moment is not even a nitpick. This is a nitpick. After announcing 10 seconds to self-destruct, the escape pod takes 15.16 seconds to self-destruct. It does so by starting the countdown 1.5 seconds after saying so, slowing down the counting process around the 6 to 4 second mark, and having a 1.5 second delayed explosion after getting to 0. I timed it.
I know we're breaking rules at the same time that we're following rules for space. We fully expect we will be offending the true scientists out there. There be sound in space. We let there be flames and
So yeah, WALL-E. Not as good as everyone says it is. Now I can assure all of you, this is a take I genuinely believe, and I hope this video helped y'all understand why. I didn't make this video just because I wanted to be one of the intelligent big boys to discover the truth. I mean, I did want to be that, but I was hoping my eventual hot take would have been something I actually hate. 2001: A Space Odyssey seems to be quite a beloved film, doesn't it? Well, too bad, cause that movie sucks monkey ding dong. Obviously, this movie is littered with tensionless scenes that drag on for too long, but everybody already knows about that. The bigger issue with this film is that this movie is literally dangerous. This film is likely responsible for the September 11th terrorist attacks. I bring this up because those bastards probably loved Kubrick at the time, in ways that make this film feel exceptionally propagandic at the time. Even though literally the only reason I can comprehend anybody wanting to watch this movie is because it has nothing to do with warfare. But think about it. We all know Kubrick loves warfare, right? Just like the Taliban. No, wait, the, ISIS? I don't know, they're all the same. What year did Teeny Weeny strike our towers? 2001. And what year is in this movie's title? That's right, 200 motherfucking 1.
Coincidence? I think not!
How could you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Functioning brain cells. But at last, I watch WALL-E with analytical lens just for fun, and I end up finding more than I bargained for. But hey, guess what folks? Even with all that I pointed out, WALL-E is still more of a good movie than a bad one. In fact, one thing about all of my issues with the film that you may or may not have noticed is that none of them, not a single fucking one of them, is targeted at the bot himself. WALL-E is a strong, intentionally likable, and consistent character, with no contradictions to his personality. Dare I say he's a perfect character. And the same goes for most, if not all of the characters in the film. With the exception of Gopher's escape pod stupidity, and some frankly inconsequential nitpicks here and there, none of the characters in WALL-E have any detriments. They all have personalities that remain consistent and unscathed, and they all have their purposes within the story. Even when the scenes themselves don't make any sense, their reactions to the events within the scenes do. The characters are by far the strongest aspect of the film, and that's a pretty damn good plus.
You are endowing data with human characteristics because it looks human, but it is not. If it were a box on wheels, I would not be facing this opposition.
Work, work. But it's not the only plus. Oh no. The story as a whole is pretty good, in spite the logistic whoopsies of the actual plot. A simple yet engaging tale of romance and heroism from the most unlikely of forms. And of course, how that story is told is pretty unique, where the majority of it is told with little to no dialogue. Story showing, not storytelling. A rare technique to this day. The environmental versus capitalism message, though leaning towards one side, is slotted into the story naturally enough to not come off as preachy, nor has any form of unfortunate implications whatsoever, unless the viewer wishes to stretch hard enough. The power of brain cells! The animation is fantastic, even with its live-action segments, which I'll admit can be a bit uncanny, but it's utilized in a way that doesn't feel out of place. The score sounds good, the jokes are likely funny, the world building is simple but effective, these posters actually tell a bit of a story if you look at the years on the bottom, and this film has what is probably my favorite end credits sequence ever, where the humans and good guy robots restore the Earth throughout a new history, and WALL-E and Eve, holding hands, gaze upon a beautiful tree, the very tree that they themselves have saved all those years ago. Good shit. This payoff wasn't 100% earned, but good shit nevertheless.
Nah, come on. Can't you just turn your brain off and enjoy the movie at 100%?
Well, interestingly, I recently decided to take that advice at hand and watch WALL-E with my brain turned off. It was horrible because I didn't know what the fuck was happening because my brain was turned off. However, once I turned my brain back on, I watched WALL-E again as a simple audience member. The issues within the film can still be distracting once you notice them, but the film overall is still quite a treat. You haven't lived until you watched WALL-E.
If I had to pick a number, I'd say a strong, 7? 6 to 7.
I give WALL-E the Wild Thorn Badge. How fitting.
So why the hell is WALL-E a sacred cow?
Because everybody labels WALL-E as a masterpiece, and a masterpiece it is not. It is a good but not great movie. However, WALL-E is a good movie, and it'd be asinine for people to say otherwise, even with all the issues I pointed out. A sacred cow can still be good, even if it is overrated. In fact, some sacred cows can do amazing things. Which is why...
No, stop! What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
What the... Goddamn Hindu ass screaming hippie, get down from there! Why? Why would you do that?
Not all sacred cows deserve to be slaughtered. This one simply deserves a good old flick in the forehead. What? No. Maybe?